The days leading up to the wedding were nothing short of chaos for Taehyung. On paper, everything was moving fast. His designs were finally taking shape in the new building YN had arranged. His studio felt alive with ideas, and for the first time, he had the freedom to breathe and create. But inside, he was a mess. Every time he picked up his phone to text YN, her replies were short, rushed, followed by endless apologies. "Sorry, Tae, busy with wedding prep. I'll call later, promise. Don't overthink, okay?" Her words were meant to calm him, but they did the opposite. His mind spun out of control. What if she was regretting it? What if she was realizing he wasn't good enough? What if she backed out on the very day? The thought of standing there in front of both families, only to hear her say she couldn't go through with it, was eating him alive. He tried to shake it off, drowning himself in work, but even his sketches betrayed him, lines shaky, strokes hesitant, heart heavy. One night, he sat in the half-lit balcony of his new studio, staring at the city lights. He whispered to himself, "Taehyung, she chose me, she chose me. Don't be stupid, Kim Taehyung. Don't let fear ruin this." But still, his chest tightened with unease. And just like that, without realizing how quickly time had slipped through his fingers, the wedding day arrived. The mansion buzzed with life, decorations shimmering, guests arriving in expensive suits and gowns. But in his room, Taehyung stood before the mirror, dressed in his wedding suit, palms cold and heart racing. He looked at his reflection and muttered under his breath, "Taehyung, what if she doesn't show up?" The Lee mansion looked nothing less than a palace that evening. The vast garden had been transformed into a dream, arches wrapped in white orchids and roses, fairy lights dripping from every tree, a shimmering pathway leading straight to the altar. It wasn't just a wedding, it was a statement. Asia's most powerful families had gathered, every big name in business seated among the guests. Photographers flashed, waiters moved in polished lines, the chatter of influential voices filled the air. The Kim family sat with pride glowing on their faces. Marrying into the Lee empire meant power beyond imagination. Mrs. Kim whispered to her husband with a smile that couldn't hide her greed. "Mrs. Kim, our son, marrying into the Lee family. We'll finally rise where we belong. Mr. Kim, it's all because of V. If only YN had chosen him." V sat stiff, a polite smile stretched on his lips, but his jaw clenched, fury simmering beneath his calm facade. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. It was supposed to realize Taehyung was a failure, an embarrassment, and reject him. Instead, here they were celebrating a union no one expected. Meanwhile, Taehyung stood near the altar, hands trembling at his sides. His suit was tailored perfectly, but he felt like the fabric was choking him. The weight of every glance, every whisper pressed on his chest. Guest 1. Why Taehyung, not V? Strange choice. Guest 2. The Lees must see something we don't. Guest 3. Still, marrying him this soon, bold. He swallowed hard, his throat dry, the decorations, the grandeur, the attention, it all blurred before his eyes. All he could think was one terrifying question. What if she doesn't come? And then, the music began. Everyone rose from their seats, heads turning toward the staircase that led down into the garden. There she was. Dressed in a gown that seemed woven from moonlight itself, descending slowly with a calm smile. Her parents walked beside her, pride radiating from them. The Lee family looked like royalty, every step of YN making the crowd fall silent in awe. Taehyung's breath hitched, his hands curling into fists. For a moment, he forgot the world. It was just her. And as her eyes found him across the distance, sparkling, unwavering, all of his doubts began to shatter, piece by piece. The music swelled, violins echoing through the glowing garden. In stepped closer, her gown brushing against the flower-strewn aisle. Every step she took toward Taehyung felt like a silent declaration. Taehyung stood frozen, his chest rising and falling rapidly. The closer she came, the more real it felt. His heart thundered with one thought. She really chose me. The officiator's voice rang out, formal yet drowned in the thick silence of hundreds of watchful eyes. Officiator, today, we gather to witness the union of Lee Hwan and Kim Taehyung. Whispers swirled among the guests. Some smiled, some shook their heads in disbelief. Guest 1, why him, of all people? Guest 2, the Lees wouldn't allow this unless they trusted him. Guest 3, but so soon. After just days, V's jaw tightened, his fingers digging into the armrest of his chair. His eyes never left Why and never left the sight of her standing next to Taehyung. It burnt him alive. V to himself, bitterly, she should have been mine. The officiator turned to Taehyung. Officiator, Kim Taehyung, do you take Lee Hwan as your lawfully wedded wife, to stand beside her through every storm and every dawn? Taehyung's lips trembled. For a second, the crowd thought he'd falter. But then his gaze locked on him. Everything else vanished. Taehyung steady, voice low but strong. I do. The words sent a wave through the guests. Shock, disbelief, grudging respect. Mrs. Kim's face soured, her pride cracking, while Mr. Kim clenched his fists under the table. The officiator then turned to Hwan. Officiator, Lee Hwan, do you take Kim Taehyung as your lawfully wedded husband, choosing him above all others, to share your life and your empire? The garden held its breath, all eyes pinned on her. Her parents shifted slightly, nervous of her boldness, but her lips curved into a smile. Why and loud, clear, eyes locked on Tae, I do. And I don't want no from him ever again, gasps broke out. Some chuckled nervously, others murmured at her fearless words. Taehyung's chest ached her, but wasn't just a promise, it was a shield around him. The officiator nodded, moved. Officiator, then, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may seal it with a kiss. The world blurred. Taehyung reached for her slowly, almost afraid she'd vanish. But Hwan leaned forward first, her hand sliding onto his cheek. Their lips met, gentle yet burning, sealing not just their vows, but their defiance against every doubt in the crowd. The garden erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. The Kims forced smiles through clenched teeth, while the Lees sat tall, victorious, and V. 5 stood up abruptly and left, his fists clenched, fury and betrayal boiling inside him. Taehyung pulled back just enough to meet Hwan's eyes. His lips trembled with emotion. Taehyung whispering only for her. You saved me. Hwan smiled, eyes gleaming. Hwan. No, Tae, you were worth saving. The reception sparkled under strings of golden lights. Waiters glided between tables, the scent of roses and expensive champagne filling the garden. Laughter and chatter echoed, but to Taehyung, the world was still a haze his heart hadn't flowed since Hwan had said I do. She leaned closer, her hand brushing his under the table. Hwan softly, Tae, I know I've been distant these days. His chest tightened. The very words he'd been dreading. He swallowed hard, eyes dropping to his glass. Taehyung quiet, almost broken. I thought, maybe you regretted it. Maybe you'd run away like everyone else did from me. Hwan shook her head instantly, her grip tightening over his hand until he looked at her. No, I wasn't running away. I was busy clearing my schedule, Tae, canceling meetings, pushing deadlines. I wanted to give us time, real time. I want this marriage to work. I want you. Her words landed like cool rain on his burning chest. Taehyung blinked, his breath trembling as if he hadn't been allowed to breathe until now. Taehyung voice low, raw. You really mean that? Hwan smiling, teasing, but sincere. Of course I do. Why else would I shout at you not to say no? He chuckled shakily, the knot in his chest finally loosening. It was as if a cold breeze had passed over him, sweeping away every fear, every doubt. For the first time in years, his shoulders dropped, his muscles relaxed. He turned slightly, so only she could hear. Taehyung, you don't know what that means to me, you choosing me. It's like I can finally breathe. Hwan whispering back, then breathe easy, husband. I'm not going anywhere. Taehyung's eyes glistened as he lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss against her fingers. Around them, the chatter and applause continued, but none of it mattered. For Taehyung, this was the first night he didn't feel like a failure. He wasn't the lesser son, the weak Kim. He was Lee YN's choice, her husband, her partner. And that was more powerful than any business empire. The reception wound down as the night deepened, yet the glow of lights across the Lee Mansion's garden still shimmered. Guests left with whispers, business tycoons murmuring about how bold the decision had been Lee YN choosing Kim Taehyung instead of Kim V, but in the center of it all, the Kims wore pride on their faces, especially Mr. and Mrs. Kim, who couldn't stop glancing at their new daughter-in-law with smiles that almost felt rehearsed. When the last round of farewells was done, the Kims insisted, Mrs. Kim warmly holding YN's hand, "Daughter, tonight you are ours. Come to the Kim Mansion. It is where your new life begins." The statement made Taehyung stiffen for a second. He wasn't used to this sweetness. His parents had never looked at him with such approval. But now only because of YN, their tones had softened, their smiles had sweetened. He glanced sideways at her, realizing again, she was his shield, his unexpected miracle. At the Kim Mansion, the atmosphere was shifted entirely. Mrs. Kim walked with YN like she was royalty. Mr. Kim laughed heartily, pouring drinks for the elders while repeatedly saying how fortunate they were to welcome such a bride. Mrs. Kim to YN, doting, "You must be tired, but still you look radiant. Tell me, what do you use on your skin? Sunscreen, moisturizer?" Such glow can't come naturally. Before YN could answer, Mia and Gia popped in, both giggling as they flopped beside her. Mia excited, "Ani, tell us everything. Your skincare routine, your favorite perfumes, how you manage your hair," Gia cutting in. "And don't lie, we're going to copy all of it. If you're our sister now, we deserve to know." The sisters' bubbly chatter filled the hall, and YN laughed, a genuine laugh that melted the slight stiffness of the evening. Taehyung watched from a short distance, his lips curving as he saw her bonding with the family so easily, something he had always failed at. Taehyung to himself, quietly, they only act like this because of her, but still, she makes it feel real. The room fell silent as Taehyung closed the door behind them. The laughter of Mia and Gia still echoed faintly in the hall, but inside, it was just the two of them. The bed was covered with white roses and soft fabric draped over the headboard, the scent of vanilla candles filling the air. Taehyung stood still for a long moment, watching In remove her jewelry piece by piece, her reflection glowing in the golden mirror light. His throat tightened. She wasn't just beautiful, she was his wife now. Taehyung softly, almost to himself, "I still can't believe this is real, that you chose me." YN turned, her earrings in her hand, raising a brow at him. "YN, Tae, how many times do I have to tell you? I didn't choose you by mistake. I wanted you. And if you keep doubting it, I'll get annoyed." Taehyung's lips curved into a shaky smile. He walked over, his fingers brushing against her hand as he took the earring from her, setting it aside. Taehyung whispering, eyes locked on hers, "You don't know what it does to me when you say that." Her heart skipped as his fingers trailed up to cup her jaw. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers. YN teasing softly, "Then stop wasting time and show me what being Mrs. Kim Taehyung means." That was all it took. His lips crashed onto hers, urgent but trembling, like a man starved for too long. In melted into the kiss, her arms winding around his neck as he pulled her closer, until there was no space between them. He lifted her gently, carrying her to the bed and laying her down among the roses. His hands hovered, hesitant, tracing her hairline, her shoulders, her waist, as if he was memorizing every inch. Taehyung husky, voice breaking, "Tell me to stop if it's too much. I don't want to rush you." In pulled him down, her lips brushing his ear. YN whispering, "I married you because I want all of you. Tae, don't hold back." Her words lit fire in him. His kisses deepened, trailing down her neck, lingering at her collarbone as she gasped his name. he whispered over her skin between kisses. "Taehyung, mine, my wife, my everything." Her hands tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, her laughter mixing with her breathless sighs as he explored every reaction he could draw from her. The world outside no longer mattered. Business deals, family judgment, these fury nothing existed except them. The night unfolded with tenderness and passion colliding, soft giggles turning into heated whispers, stolen breaths turning into promises murmured against flushed skin. Every moment sealed the bond they had just promised before the world, but now only the two of them knew the depth of it. And as dawn crept in, Taehyung held in against his chest, their hands entwined. Taehyung sleepy but certain, "No one can take you from me now." "Not even fate," Wyan smiled, pressing her lips against his heart. "That's because I don't plan to go anywhere, Mr. Kim." The golden morning light slipped through the curtains, casting soft patterns across the room. Wyan stirred, her body aching in the sweetest way, her head resting on Taehyung's bare chest. His arm was wrapped around her waist protectively, as if even in sleep he was afraid to let go. She tilted her head slightly, watching his peaceful face. His lashes were long, lips slightly parted, his hair messy from the night before. For a man who had seemed so intimidating to everyone else, he looked like the softest dream lying beside her. Wyan whispering to herself, "You're really mine now." Taehyung's lips curved faintly, his eyes still closed. Taehyung husky, half asleep, "And you're really loud for someone who wore me out all night." Her cheeks flushed as she smacked his chest lightly. "Wyan, yeah, don't say things like that in the morning." He finally opened his eyes, dark and warm, pulling her closer until her face was buried in his neck. Taehyung smirking, "Why not?" "It's the truth. Last night was everything." Wyan tried to push away, embarrassed, but his grip tightened. "Wyan, Tae, let me go." "We need to go downstairs. Everyone must be waiting." Taehyung pouting playfully. 5 more minutes. "Just 5. I want to stay like this, with my wife." Her heart melted at the way he said "my wife." She sighed, giving in, hurling into him. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, then her nose, and finally her lips, slow and tender, completely different from the passion of last night. Taehyung softly, almost like a vow, "From today, every morning, I want to wake up next to you." Wyan smiled against his lips. "Wyan, then you better not mess up, Mr. Kim, because I'm not letting you run away either." He laughed, the sound filling the room as he rolled her beneath him again, ignoring the world outside their door. "Taehyung, looks like we'll be late to breakfast." The long dining table at the Kim mansion was already filled with chatter when Wyan and Taehyung walked in. Dressed elegantly in a soft pastel dress, bowed respectfully before taking her seat beside her husband. Taehyung, for once, wasn't overshadowed. His presence was commanding yet calm, his hand brushing Wyan's lightly under the table, grounding himself. Mr. Kim cleared his throat as the servants began serving breakfast. "Mr. Kim, before we begin, some news. We left for London last night, an urgent business deal with the Watson Group. It's a high-stakes partnership. If he succeeds, it will take our company to another level." The table buzzed with murmurs. Mia and Gia exchanged impressed looks, whispering among themselves. Wyan smiled politely, offering, "I'm sure he'll handle it well. He's very capable." Across the table, Mrs. Kim didn't reply immediately. Her eyes had shifted almost unknowingly towards her second son. Taehyung wasn't sulking or shrinking back as usual. He was laughing softly at something Wyan whispered, his shoulders relaxed, his expression lit with a glow no one could miss. Something stirred in her. For years, she had only seen disappointment in him, failed ventures, stubborn dreams, a son who could never measure up to his brother. But here in front of her was a man transformed. She had never seen Taehyung so alive, so happy. Mrs. Kim gently, almost hesitant, "Taehyung, you look different today." He blinked, caught off guard, while Wyan glanced at him, curious. Taehyung confused laugh, "Different?" Mrs. Kim's lips softened into the faintest smile. Mrs. Kim, yes, happier, stronger. A beat of silence fell, and for once, it wasn't heavy. Taehyung lowered his gaze, embarrassed, while YN's hand found his under the table, squeezing it reassuringly. Mia leaned forward eagerly, her eyes on YN. Mia and Nee, we wanted to ask, what skincare do you use? Your glow is unreal. Jia excitedly joining in. Yes, and your sunblock brand, please. I'm begging you. The table erupted in laughter, easing the tension. YN smiled, promising to share her tips later, while Taehyung hid a smirk at how quickly his sisters-in-law were bonding with his wife. For the first time in years, the Kim family's breakfast wasn't filled with judgment or comparisons. It was filled with something else entirely, warmth. And Mrs. Kim, watching the way Taehyung's hand never left YN's, realized she was genuinely happy for him.